On today's episode, we're talking about courageous faith, the story of Patrice Hubert, the faith that will lead you to pivot during a pandemic, build a team, and launch a business with no followers while wrestling with grief. Join us. The sponsor for today's episode is the Heightening Self-Care Kit. In this self-care kit, there are over 120 tips and a journal to support you on your journey to self-care. Visit www.theheightening.com to order your kit today.
Welcome to the Heightening, a place for those who are answering the call of God to fulfill God's purpose in their lives. We are women who are being elevated to a level of intentionality and empowerment to lead the life we were created to live. Please welcome our host, Yolanda Caldwell.
Welcome to this episode of The Heightening. We are so excited to have you join us. I am ultra excited to have with me today Patrice Hubert. Patrice is the founder and CEO of Heart of Gold LLC, which is a virtual boutique that specializes in custom apparel, stationery, and other inspirational products. The Heart of Gold brand is designed to inspire our customers through the positive words and affirmations featured on the merchandise. Patrice is a creative entrepreneur at heart. She loves being around people and loves God with all her heart. She believes that we are purposed to help each other and is committed to helping people become their best selves. Well, ladies of the Heightening, you know why Patrice is here, because she is in alignment with what we do at the Heightening, where we live authentic, intentional, and empowered lives. So join me in welcoming Patrice. Hi, Patrice.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I am well. I am so excited to have you with us today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Great. So you have been doing some wonderful things recently with the Heart of Gold. I've checked out your website, and if you guys haven't, you need to check it out. She has some great stuff over there. But before we go a little further, tell me why you started Heart of Gold.
I mean, honestly, it's totally God inspired. God woke me up mid-November. I had like 3 days where I couldn't sleep. I was napping, and I finally thought I was going to get some sleep, and he woke me up, and I'm like, Lord, give me clarity. Tell me what it is that you want me to do, because it's obviously something. And after my conversation and prayer with him, I was able to fall into a deep sleep, woke up the next morning, and I had a flood of ideas, and the culmination of that is Heart of Gold.
Wow, a flood. I couldn't even imagine. And I say that a little sarcastically because I've had that experience before, and it's overwhelming almost.
Yes, it's definitely overwhelming. And I keep a pad on the side of my bed, so when he speaks to me, I'm able to just write it down immediately. So when I woke up that next morning, I just started writing everything that he told me he wanted me to do, from the type of merchandise, what words he wanted me to say on the design. Everything that you see on that site, he spoke it to me.
So now this is not the only thing you do, correct?
No, now professionally, I am an accountant. I have a bachelor's in accounting and I have a master's in IT. So I have another business called Hubert Enterprises, where I do consulting to small businesses on the accounting side and bookkeeping. And then I also have that master's in IT, where I do software implementation, documentation, and training. So I am a hybrid of two industries.
And that's the beautiful thing about being who God called us to be, is that we can fulfill so many gifts and talents that he's given us. And we have to be wise in how we use our time and our talent. So, Patrice, tell us a little bit about when you launched Heart of Gold, how you
Mhm.
decided to manage both of those, because a lot of our listeners are, like you said, they work full time and they also have their business, their passion business. So tell us a little bit about how you found time for your passion business.
I mean, I'll be completely honest with you. I lost my job right before COVID hit last year. And of course, I was in second and third interviews with a couple of companies this time last year. And of course, when COVID hit, nothing happened. So I was one of those people affected, and unemployed as a
Mm-hmm.
result of COVID. So I remember, you apply, you talk to recruiters, you network with the folks that you know. And I had a friend call me last summer in August. And she literally said to me, Patrice, you are not going to find a job. And I was like, why would you say that? Why would you say that to me? She said, because that's not what God wants you to do right now. He wants
Ooh.
you to do something else. He wants you to do something else. And she said, I'm so excited to be able to tell you this because you're always, having a word for other people, and I'm getting a chance to call you and give you a word. And she said, you're not going to find a job. And sure enough, it didn't happen. So when November hit and he gave me this business, you have your plan and then he has his, right? My plan was to finish. I have two books. I have one that's in editing stage. It's a book of poems, and then I have another book that I've written half of on grief. And so my plan was to finish my books. But God said, no, that's not what I want you to do right now. I want you to do this. And considering the fact that I've been living off of my savings, last year, and I'm like, okay, well, to do this is going to cost something. How do you want me to do this? And he said, I'll make it happen. Don't worry about that. So I reached out to a couple friends, one of which says, well, I know a guy who can do your website. I've already, I'll talk to him. Don't worry about it. The next day she called me. I've already talked to him, give him a call on Monday. So I give him a call. We have a conversation. He's like, don't worry, I'll work with you. I said, okay. So now I'm like, well, now I need somebody to help me with the designs, Lord. Who am I supposed to get to do this? At the end of the day, that's one of the most expensive pieces of this business is
Yes.
working with graphic designers. And so I met a lady when I was in graduate school about 8 years ago. Started on the same day. I was interning at the software company. She was working full time. And we came in at the same time, like 6:30 in the morning, and we got to know each other. She sat in front of me. Well, long story short, I kept in touch with her. And I reached out to her and let her know what God told me to do. And you know what she said to me? She said, Patrice, what are you worried about? I'm a graphic designer. I am going to go ahead and do whatever you need me to do, and you don't have to worry about the charge. I'll do it for free. And literally, that's where it began. She and I would get together every day. We think through what it is that how I wanted to present it, I told her what God wanted to say on these designs, and we will work together and come up with something. Now, I'm 50, okay? I'm not ashamed to tell my age. And she's 70. So you're talking about a generation, gap between us, but we've been able to work together very well to come up with the designs that you see on the site. So
Okay,
he's
I'm sitting
given
here with my mouth wide open. And one of the reasons I'm like almost at a loss for words is you just said your graphic designer is 70.
She is. She is. She is a vibrant 70-year-old. You would never know it to talk to her, to meet her. She's very tech savvy. She still work. In fact, she just started working a full-time job again because she's so good and so fast at what she does that her last job called her and said, hey, we want you again. So this 70-year-old is definitely not 70 in spirit.
Well, the only way to build a team is to let God lead you.
Right, right. That's
W-
true.
w- Yeah, I mean, whenever like you said earlier, we try to put things together, and it's really God's plan that prevails.
Absolutely. And I mean, he even, he had other people step in as well. I mean, I needed to be able to do some things, from a design standpoint, like with the Cricut machine.
Hmm.
And it's the tricky part about even that is, when I told one of my line sisters that what I was trying to do, she said, "Girl, I got a brand new machine that's been sitting on this floor on in the corner for 2 years." She said, "You can have it." And I promise you, when she gave it to me, it was the top of the line one, brand new in a box. So I learned how to use that machine, and that's how I designed some of the products in terms of the journals and stuff like that. So, I mean, he literally has given me everything I need to make this business work.
So we're talking about how God has led you to build this business in the middle of a pandemic. But I didn't really give you an opportunity to tell everybody what you do. I gave a brief overview. Tell us about Heart of Gold. What are your products? What do you offer?
Well, what we do, of course, like you said earlier, is we have inspirational statements, quotes on the products. We have uh, a women's collection, a men's collection. We have the affirmation series, which is my signature brand, the compassion series, and we do some stuff for couples and home decor and gifts. But the affirmation series, just to speak a little bit about that, is where the heart of my site lies. That's where we have certain inspirational quotes. For instance, one of the top sellers that I have right now is "God's timing is perfect." That one, along with "God's love surrounds me," and "My destiny is just within reach." The things that these things that you have to say to yourself, things that we've all said to ourselves, to keep putting one foot in front of the other. Now, my personal favorite of the inspirational quotes that we have featured on the site is "Courageous Faith," because that's the thing that I've had to have, even in moving forward with this business. I've had to have courageous faith. And so I feel like God has allowed me to use this platform to not only inspire people, but to encourage them to step outside of their fears and just put one foot in front of the other and take it to the next level. That thing that that God told you to do, or that thing that you've been wanting to do, that you've been setting aside for years. Don't wait anymore. Just do it. Don't let money, people, or anything stop you from doing it. I mean, look at what has happened with me. I mean, he gave me everything I needed. He gave me the resources and the tools that I needed to make this business happen. And if I can do it, you can do it too.
Patrice, what you're sharing and what you're encouraging people to do does take courageous faith, because you do have to step out. I think back on, I've just recently read again the story of Joshua, and how God moved on behalf of Joshua is very different than how he moved on behalf of Moses.
Mm-hmm.
Joshua had to step in the water while it was flowing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes people are so afraid of the river, of the thing that is before them, that they don't take that step. They don't step in their blessing.
Right.
They don't step into it.
Right. I totally agree. And I mean, to be honest with you, one of my favorite stories in the Bible is the story of Joseph. Um, I look at what he went through in its entirety, from the
Mm,
moment that his brothers threw him into that pit, sold him into slavery, the things that he went through as a slave, and yet even as a slave, he rose to the top. He became the prisoner that they looked to for guidance. Even as a prisoner, he was still a leader. And at the end of the day, we all know the story. God lifted him up, and he became the second most powerful person in Egypt. But the bottom line of that story for me is regardless of what he went through and all that he went through, God still brought him through it. He lifted him up. Cream rose to the top. And I think at the end of the day, you can be so blessed, just like Joseph, that you can forget what you went through to get there. So sometimes we get so caught up in that position that we're in at that moment that's the thing that paralyzes us. We won't move forward because we're stuck. But you can't be stuck. You got to take that foot and just put one foot in front of the other. And sometimes it requires you just to encourage yourself and say, I can do this. Lord, I know you're with me, just like Joseph. And, I look to that story probably the most because I can relate to it. He did. And he never gave up. He never blamed God for where he was, So, I've had people ask me, please, you've been through a lot, but you always speak faith. Anytime I see you, you're always encouraging others, regardless of what you're going through. Because I know that everything that I'm going through has a purpose. It serves a purpose. God knows that I'm going to tell his story. I'm going to give him the glory when I come out of it. It's not if I'm going to come out of it, but when I come out of it. He knows I'm going to give him the glory. I'm going to give him the praise. And I'm going to tell my story in hopes that someone else will be encouraged to trust him too.
So you are sharing your story, and I believe that a lot of people who are listening are going to be encouraged. You talked about one thing that you do. You have a notebook by your bed, and that's how you capture the whispers of God so that you don't lose them in the busyness of life. What else do you do to hold on to your faith?
You know what? I am a strong believer in daily confessions. I'm a strong believer in dream boards. I have a dream board that I look at every day. When I do my dream boards, I not only put the pictures on it of things that I want, but I do the scriptures. I write the scriptures on there for the thing that I want. I'm very, very specific on my dream boards. In my confessions, I'm very, very specific, even to the point of, if you have something that you're really, really passionate about and you've really been praying for, I have a framed confession on my table in my bedroom that I look at every day for something that I've been waiting for God to give me, that I know he's going to give me. So I think at the end of the day, you have to be, assured in what he's going to do for you, but you also have to do the work. You got to do your part. We do our part in the natural, which means if you want something, you got to do the labor like the word says. But at the end of the day, you also have to speak faith. You got to do that spiritual part. And so for me, it's having the confession, it's my dream boards. It's also fellowshipping with other believers who are like-minded as myself, and we get together because the word says when two or more are gathered in your name, he's in the midst of them. So, having those individuals that, you can go to when your faith seems weaker, that will say, hey, girl, I know you can do it. You know this, but I'm going to tell you anyway, you can do this. We all need to upliftment sometimes. So having that team, that circle of friends and family that you could depend on to speak that word, because that's what we need, the word of God over my life, to confess over my life, to get me where I need to be. And I'm very blessed to have a wonderful team of people around me that sincerely love me and care for me.
And it's amazing to hear your tips, and I hope everyone was taking notes, and if you didn't, just hit the replay button and get those notes, because what Patrice just shared with you is a great toolkit, a great way to show up, and not just as an entrepreneur, but just show up in your life.
Absolutely. And I mean, honestly, we hadn't talked about some of the personal stuff that I've been through, but at the end of the day, God has never left me. I don't know, a lot of people to this day don't know that I'm a breast cancer survivor. That thing came from nowhere, okay? Breast cancer is on neither side of my family. And when I got it, it was a blow. But even in that situation, I knew God would bring me through. He is not done with me yet, okay? My life is just beginning. It's not ending. So, I came through it, and I had, a couple bad infections after my surgery, and, it was a longer recovery than I thought it would be. But even in that, he said, Patrice, you got to look at life through a new lens. Live your life. Don't let anything, including this, keep you from having hope and joy. And I remember after he said that to me, saying, you know what, he's right. And I traveled a good 6 months, 3-4 weekends out of the month. I was gone, living my life, spending time with the people that I love, my friends, my sorority sisters, and going to places and doing things that I hadn't done because, I was going through that healing. And, you go through the physical healing first, but then you got to go through the emotional part, because as a woman, certain things are gone that are not there anymore. And so he got me through that.
Patrice, I want to thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your story with our audience and allowing us to witness how your faith has kept you through many things that has crippled others to the point that they cannot move forward.
Mhm.
So thank you. Thank you for
Thank you.
sharing.
Thank you for having me. And and if I could say this, I think that a lot of times people get stuck because they're so focused on what's happening to them. But you and I both know that a lot of times when we go through things, it's not for our benefit, right? It's for us to be a living testimony of God's goodness and his glory. And I really believe with everything in me that everything that I've been through has been for this moment, that I'm in a position and having a platform where I could share my story and encourage somebody else through the trials and the tribulations that I've personally been through.
There for you to get to Patrice's information so that you can support and get products to support the causes that you believe in and the causes that have impacted your life. So Patrice, as we wrap up our conversation, which I really don't want to, because I am enjoying having this conversation with you, what is one thing that you would share with an aspiring entrepreneur?
The things that I've been saying all along, follow the path that God has for you, despite your fears. Don't allow anyone or anything to keep you from doing the thing that you're supposed to be doing. We're all gifted with talents, and can't nobody do that but you. Don't nobody know how to be Patrice but Patrice. And God did that for all of us. So that thing that you should be doing, don't be afraid. Just do it. If nothing else, just put one foot in front of the other. Do one step at a time, and I promise you, he will put the people on your path to help you accomplish whatever it is.
Of goal. He provided resources. He built her team. He gave her clarity. He gave her information. He gave her resources. But she didn't just rest with
business. He gave me the name of the business too. He gave me the name. That name he gave to me in the middle of the night because I'm like, what am I supposed to name this business? He said Heart of Gold. And you know what I said to him? That is not going to be available. That's not going to be available. But just as sure as I went out to the Secretary of State, it was available.
Ladies of the Go ahead. Tell him, Patrice.
No, I said that's the God we serve.
That's the God we serve.
Yeah, when you think it's impossible or it's not possible, he opens that door and make it possible.
He makes the impossible possible.
He makes the impossible possible.
Well, on that note, ladies, we want you to continue to live the life.
Thank you for joining us today. Please visit us at www.theheightening.com.